Egunon, guztioi, buenos días a todos, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a este webinar que será en inglés. So welcome everyone to this webinar that we have titled Dynamics in Automotive Industry and Impacts on the Machine Tool Industry. It's a webinar that we launched from AFM together with FEB Consulting, our partner, and the objective is to share with you some clues about how the automotive industry is going to evolve and how the impact is going to be in our sector, in the machine tool sector. I'm going to share with you the program for today. So first, from AFM, I want to share a short introduction about what AFM is and what we do. And then, together with our partners, our friends from FEB Consulting, we will talk about dynamics in the automotive industry and the impacts on the machine tool sector. I invite you to share your questions through the questions and answers button and also through the chat. And at the end of the webinar, we have the opportunity to share your questions with Glusk and Hagen Wegner, who are the persons who will be talking with us today. So from AFM, what I want to share is that we are the association, the cluster that gathers the whole advanced manufacturing ecosystem in Spain through 7 associations. We have all the machine tool and components builders, the additive manufacturing industry, cutting tools manufacturers, machining, cutting, and boiler making sector, also the sector of automation and robotics, and the whole group of startups with a product or service to the advanced manufacturing. This is a group, an ecosystem of more than 800 companies that we complete with a collective of more than 100 partners, such as FEB Consulting, who helps us in different areas of activities, okay? So apart from what we are, I also want to share what we do. We are a team of 28 people. We have our headquarters here in San Sebastian, in Guipúzcoa. We provide with services to our ecosystem in the lobby area, markets, technology, communication and marketing, safety, people, and also everything related with subvention funds and so on. Some specific activity that I want to share with you, and I think is interesting for everyone, is talking about people, okay? About skilled people. We have Join, which is an industrial employment portal, a platform where our companies can share their opportunities, job opportunities, and it's filled with all the candidates that we find in different employment forums, okay? So this is a platform that you can use, it's join.es, and it's open to each company and every company that is listening today. So from my side, this is everything I want to share. We invite you to be close to AFM for the next webinars and events. And thank you very much. Now it's time to hear from Patrick and from Hagen. I'm going to stop sharing. So Patrick, Hagen, thank you for being with us today. And we are eager to listen to you and to know how it's going to evolve the automotive industry and how is it going to be the impact in machine tool sector. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much, Juancho. Egunon, buenos dias, and good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure, first of all, to be part now of AFM. We joined recently, and thank you, Juanjo, for the smooth process of integrating us as a company. My name is Patrick Glusk. I'm pleased to participate in this seminar. I'm responsible for FEV Consulting in Spain. And today with me, I have my colleague Hagen, director at FEV Consulting, located in Germany. Let me share my screen, and please, let's make sure that this works. I hope you can see all that screen.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Juanjo, as you introduced, we want to talk today about the impact of future powertrain scenarios, specifically on the machine tool and supplier industry. As we are new member of the cluster, we also reserved a couple of minutes for a short introduction, of course, to our company, to our services, how it integrates at FEV Group. And then we would dive into the topic, explaining the dynamics, trends we currently see specifically in terms of electrification and corresponding impacts on our industry segment, the machine tool industry. But let me start with a couple of slides and words towards our company. I'm not sure if all of you know FEV Group, so let me introduce it. FEV Group is one of the worldwide leading engineering companies with a strong focus on mobility, on transport, and on energy. As you can see, we are more than 4 decades on the market, quite large, with more than 7,000 employees. And as you can also see on the global map, we are pretty much spread and located in key automotive and industrial regions across the globe. I want to add that we have still a very strong linkage to the academic world. FEV Group is a privately owned company of family Pischinger, and Mr. Pischinger, Stefan Pischinger, is also professor and holds the chair at RWTH Hagen University, which basically indicates the strong linkage between fundamental research and also engineering into serious products. What do we do? Let's be a bit more specific. FEV Group is built upon 6 main business areas and pillars. FEV does full vehicle development. We have a strong focus on software. It's a very, very dynamic environment with strong growth over the past years. We have our, I would say, historic pillar, which is FEV Propulsion, which deals with all kinds of powertrain developments, historically clearly driven by the development of combustion engines, and nowadays strongly focused on battery development, on e-motor development, on fuel cell development. But combustion is not dead. Of course, we are involved, for instance, in hydrogen combustion development programs. We have 2 additional, rather new business areas, aerospace and energy and resources. To the latter one, I think it is obvious that the energy sector has to be linked with the mobility and transport sector. This is why we understand ourselves as an integrated partner to offer dedicated solutions in that segment as well. Last but not least, and this is what Hagen and myself are representing, FEV Consulting, with a strong link within FEV Group to all mentioned business areas. Let me speak a bit more about FEV Consulting. As I said, this is what we are representing. FEV Consulting is the strategic arm, if you want to call it this way, of FEV Group. And we have a specific positioning in the market, a specific USP, which is exactly the overlap of strong technical expertise originating from FEV Group's engineering power of more than 4,000 engineers and strategic management consulting. And exactly that overlap between technology engineering and strategy makes us specific in the market and clearly defines the USP of our company. I want to add that all consultants in FEV Consulting come with an engineering background. That is our clear focus. What is FEV Consulting and how are we structured? So let me start with the fact that we are on the market for roughly 15 years now. We were founded in 2011 when we understood that in our automotive environment, many clients asked for specific techno-strategic advice. So we have been founded in that time and grew meanwhile to 150 employees across the globe. And you see it here in the middle of that chart that we are spread across the globe in different regions. And in Spain, we are headquartered in Bilbao. I'm sitting right now here in Bilbao. We are serving different industry segments. Obviously, automotive is our history, is our core, but this has been developed to a much wider degree of services, as I mentioned also for FEV Group in the beginning, towards the energy sector, specifically for transport and logistics. But we are doing a lot also within the area of industrialization, operations, and I think these are items we want to touch on later today in that presentation. You see it here. We do serve different industries. I put machinery and equipment on top with the purpose of that meeting. But we are obviously working in other areas. Pesca, of course, a big core, commercial vehicles. I myself have a big, strong background in commercial vehicle. But we do work in off-highway as well, in aerospace, transport, logistics, and if I may mention an additional segment, which is materials, very, very important, and we will also touch upon that later on. We do work in different kind of hyper themes, main areas of expertise, if you want to call it this way, as you see them below, and we offer within these areas all kind of different solutions, from intelligence and foresight across benchmarking, business strategies, but also to mention cost and value management and industrialization. So again, quite a wide spread. These solutions are further broken down. I'm not going to read through all of that. As we agreed up front, this presentation will be shared with all of you. But it's just to highlight that within our big topics, we do offer specific services. If I want to pick a specific area such as industrialization, we do work with our partners on supply chain management, on advanced manufacturing concepts, or on quality management. Again, that will be shared with you so you can have a calm read through. An important part of FEV Consulting positioning is the fact that we understand ourselves as part of a bigger ecosystem. We do collaborate with our clients, OEMs, suppliers, industry associations, but we have also that very strong linkage to universities and research institutes or to regulatory bodies. And this basically means that in projects, in discussions with our clients, we can always leverage the insights and the knowledge we have from all kinds of different areas in that ecosystem. Let me also share a word specifically on Spain. You see that we started FEV's activities in Spain back in 2013 in Barcelona, actually. So we are 12 years on the market right now. Historically, FEV in Spain was and is today very closely linked to automotive OEMs, where we do work on calibration projects, on application projects, very, very much on site with our engineering teams. And in 2020, we addressed also the technical consulting market, as I said at the very beginning, with our Bilbao office, which is the headquarters of FEV Consulting in Spain. We do basically work on the same topics as I introduced for the full company. We are super proud that we have, meanwhile, strong local partners. AFM is one of them. We are also part of the energy cluster, of the automotive cluster, of course, and of the railway association, MAFEX. We build strong linkage to universities locally. And meanwhile, we have delivered more than 120 projects already here out of Spain. Last slide for the introduction, and then we will go into the topic. I just want to highlight that we have been delivering several projects in Spain, specifically here, some examples from the Basque Country. One example you see on the left-hand side is a production line optimization to allow for larger volumes for that specific supplier. And the second example I brought here is basically a transformation project where our client, coming from the, let me say, mechanical parts business in automotive, asked us how to transform into new product opportunities to serve different kind of products in the future. And with that, I want to close that short introduction to FEV Group and FEV Consulting. I hope you much better understand who we are and what we do. And now we want to go into the key topic of this seminar. I would start with automotive trends and give an overview. And for the specific discussion on powertrain shift and impacts in our sector, I will hand over to my colleague Hagen. What I like very much to start off is with that chart. I believe that some of you will know that shape. It's called the Gartner hype cycle. It basically reflects on the different, let me say, adoption and status of new technologies. And if we apply that to battery electric vehicles, which will be one of our main discussion points today, we basically see that in recent years, before 2020, 2021, BEVs have been in that phase of innovation trigger. It was a new era with lots of expectation, finally reaching that top around 2022, 2023. We call that BEV-only illusion era, where we had significant target sets based in the European Union with a clear statement to have ZEV-onlys by 2035. We call that the peak of inflated expectations on that technology in our market. What then happened over the last years, and I think we are in the midst of this phase, is that disillusionment, that skepticism on that technology. Lots of concerns, for instance, on infrastructure, lots of concerns on readiness of technologies, new announcements of OEMs which reduce BEV targets. And currently we are in the midst of the discussion on a relaxation of CO2 targets and regulation in Europe. But what will happen typically, and we are strongly believing that, is that the BEV technology, like many, many technologies in that Gartner hype cycle, will go into a so-called mainstream era where we will continuously improve technology performance, where external boundary conditions, I mentioned already, the infrastructural situation would evolve, so that we do expect some kind of plateau of productivity by the end of that decade, with BEVs being established as a common technology in our automotive markets. And if you look to the numbers, I think we also have to be very clear on what we see today in our automotive regions. First statement is that sales of pure electric vehicles have increased by 10% in 2024. This might be surprising against the current discussions we are perceiving in Europe and specifically in Germany. But if you break that down into the key regions, you see on the left-hand side of the chart that Europe basically was constant, that we saw a 9% growth 2024 versus 23 in the US, and a significant growth in China, plus 15%. So we're talking roughly 10 million units already in 2024 being sold on global markets. And if you look to the specific European situation in terms of BEV sales, you clearly see that Germany is the key driver of that stagnating situation. We are 1/3 down year on year, whilst we saw increase of BEV sales volumes in other markets like in UK, but also in Spain. That overall leads to that stagnating picture in Europe. But again, clear driver of that negative perception in the last year is that 27% down in Germany. Let's go a little bit to the legal perspective. And I said before on the Gartner hype cycle that we are entering that discussion on how and to which degree CO2 emission targets might be adopted going forward. Historically, when I look to 2023, we see that the entire process of setting targets in the European Union was done. You see that on the left-hand side with the single steps going through all different instances to come up with a CO2 emission target roadmap for Europe. And clearly the key points of that legal boundary condition is that 55% CO2 reduction in 2030 versus baseline, and that 100% CO2 reduction in 2035 for passenger cars, which basically means ZEV only. What we do see now is that a strategic dialogue in Europe has been initiated. Just, I think it was 3 weeks ago, Ursula von der Leyen had that opening discussion with different industry representatives of our automotive markets to challenge and discuss the competitiveness of that roadmap, having also in mind that there are strong voices from the automotive industry to find a more balanced approach towards the CO2 emission reduction. And there is nothing set in stone. There is nothing decided. It is planned that a review should be public by 2026. We do expect that that will be faster. There are strong demands to already position an update of that roadmap by the end of this year. And there are different ways to discuss and potentially relax targets. There is, for instance, an opportunity and a discussion on a phase-in of, let me say, performances, or a non-consideration of certain shares within an automotive OEM's fleet. That is all to be discussed, and it is basically reflected by that very diverse positioning of OEMs, of politicians, but also of associations. And I brought with me a couple of statements, and again, I'm not going to read through all of them, but in a bigger picture, if you look to the, let me say, green highlighted statements, we see positions of OEMs and politicians which basically favor and support the actual legal boundary conditions. For instance, Stellantis stating that it would be surreal to change the rules now, or the European Commissioner for Climate, who stated that changing the rules would distort the level playing field and put those manufacturers at a competitive disadvantage. On the other hand, and that is orange or red highlighted here, we have several statements from Volkswagen, from BMW, from Renault, who basically question the current roadmap. And this is the initiation of the discussion I mentioned earlier, to review targets and to potentially introduce certain flexibilities what concerns the 2025, the 2030, and the 2035 target setting for CO2 emission regulation. Nevertheless, and that is one of the key activities FEV Consulting drives, it is our view on how electrification, or let me say it in a broader sense, how powertrain markets would evolve on global markets. In this example, we are looking specifically to the passenger car market in Europe. And you see that we have a historical and status quo view on the left-hand side of this chart. And let's just look into 2023, where we have already seen a 16% sales share of purely electric vehicles and an 8% sales share of plug-in hybrids. So that basically says that almost a quarter of the sales volume was a vehicle with a plug. And then the big question is, how do we predict that transformation? And we work, of course, in different scenarios, and I would like to focus today on the moderate transformation scenario, which already assumes a certain, let me say, adaptation and relaxation of legal boundaries. What we do believe is that the share of electric vehicles will increase, will significantly increase to almost half of the market already by 2030. We do believe that by 2035, we have a roughly 85% share of pure electric vehicles with a 10% volume of plug-in hybrids. In that case, then with increased pure electric ranges. And towards 2040, we do predict a purely zero emission vehicle new sales market combined of battery electric solutions with a minor shares of fuel cells. Now, I can share with you the fact that FEV right now is working on an update of these transformation scenarios, given the current discussion on European level. And we might see scenarios where, for instance, plug-in hybrids in 2035 might even play a larger role. I mentioned already that the pure electric range will be super important in that scenario. In a couple of weeks, FEV will come up with that updated transformation scenario. But one thing remains valid. We do see a significant and finally a full ramp up of purely electric vehicles going forward. Lastly, zero emission vehicles if we consider fuel cell solutions on the market as well. That is the transformation, a couple of trends, exactly what I introduced. And I think the key question is now, what does that mean for our industry segment? What does it mean for the supply base? What does it mean for the machine tool industry and segment? And at this stage, I would like to hand over to my colleague Hagen, who would reflect exactly on these questions.
Yes, very good. Thank you very much. And just let me share my screen. Screen number 1. Okay, I hope you can all see it.
Yes.
Very good, very good. So, we in the past conducted several studies for the VDMA, which is the German Machine Tool Association. Yeah. And one of the core results of this analysis was, given the fact that we see this change in the market, just as Patrick just described, that there will be, and partly is already visible, a significant shift of mature technologies towards emerging technologies in basically all relevant markets. Mature technologies in this context means conventional powertrain technologies such as combustion engine, after treatment, thermal management, transmission, etc. Yeah? Whereas the new or emerging technologies mean electric motors, electronics, so power electronics, electronics in general, battery components, and hydrogen components. We use a structured process to evaluate the value creation of manufacturing processes, to also evaluate the change of the transition. We typically use market data, as you have seen before, as presented by Patrick. This is basically based on sales volumes in combination with our own powertrain forecast because of our, let's say, specific insights into industry. And then this is combined with cost models, which we developed over the years that describe the manufacturing process cost per powertrain. As a result, we get the value creation of the manufacturing processes. And in addition, we can then split the cost into certain process groups, yeah, which will be then shown later. The key message is here that with this logic, we see that the value creation in the manufacturing processes will undergo a significant change during the electrification transition, as Patrick already explained. So what do we see? Within this industry transformation scenarios, basically legacy systems, as you can see here, which is basically the powertrain, the mature technology, and transmission components, show a reduced manufacturing value creation already until 2030. Yeah. The heat maps also show that there are significant changes in the powertrain components and also the correlated required manufacturing processes for the components. And this, of course, leads to a significant shift in the revenue streams of many Tier X suppliers, of machine tool suppliers, of fluid suppliers. Yeah. So the traditional manufacturing processes will undergo significant changes, but also new opportunities come up with new powertrain system components. As I said, electronic, e-motors, battery components, hydrogen components. And on the long run, this new opportunity might even get bigger. To be clearer on the results, the latest VDMA update revealed that there will be a negative business potential impact due to this transformation on all mature technology groups, as we already mentioned, and it's more than just the legacy, the emission management and transition. However, we also see that there are new opportunities with the batteries, etc. And we already have customers in Spain, in Europe, and also globally, who are now looking into these new opportunities to create new revenue streams for the companies. These are both machine tool manufacturers, TX suppliers, material suppliers of what sort. Yeah. So just to let's say, finalize and summarize that this industry transformation leads towards a shift towards technology with a higher cost intensity, which also reduces the value creation shares. That means the material intensity is much bigger in this new emerging technologies than it was in the legacy systems. And this is something you also need to take into account, and which also changes then the market for the TX suppliers. Yeah. So the question is, what can we do? Yeah. And this is exactly the question that we were asked by the VDMA, by machine tool manufacturers, by TX suppliers, etc. And we conducted these studies in the past year. And let's, as a summary, it was also the starting point for regional industry transformation studies, not just on a broader view for Europe or Germany, but also very specific for a certain region. What about industrialization in the bigger region of Aachen or Cologne, Sauerland, southern Germany, where we have lots of machine tool suppliers, etc. Yeah? And there they see that there is a significant loss of this value creation and also a loss of jobs, actually, yeah? Which is really critical. And specifically, this current phase of uncertainty underpins the need for a tailored analysis, preparing the industry and each company for the upcoming disruptions as we foresee them today. Now, if we take a look at the Basque Country plus Catalonia, we see here really the main powerhouses. Yeah? And from the talks that we have within, let's say, our networks and with our customers, that they already face the need to look at the transition, yeah, because they already see it in the incoming orders for the future, that there is a shift ongoing. Yeah? And this shift will significantly, as I explained, impact the value creation, yeah, for the equipment, for the components. And we also see that a lot of the companies in this region, and also for IFM member companies, are focused on this traditional vehicle industry and its components. Therefore, I think we should take action here. What we typically do is a traditional, let's say, structured three-step approach, yeah, to assess the regional market or machinery industry evolution, yeah, based on the future powertrain impacts. And we typically start by, let's say, clarifying the future powertrain scenarios, specifically for the Spanish market with their customers in Europe, US, or wherever. Yeah? And then there is also an explanation about that. Why do we see that? Because of legislation, customer behavior, OEM strategies. and also certain financing or investing patterns. Yeah? And then the second point would be to say, what is the impact on the local machine tools, the equipment OEMs? Yeah, so really understanding the supply chain, potential bottlenecks in terms of capacity, in terms of technologies. Yeah, and with this change of demand in the vehicle components, we can then come to certain conclusions what is actually required. And this is then the third step to say what are the conclusions for AFM, for the industry ecosystem, for specific companies. And then we can develop tailored strategies to really also keep and foster the local machine tool industry, and also to seize the new opportunities that come up with this transition. So typical results, a split by market, certain description of influencing factors. We can then discuss what vehicle segments we want to look at, whether it be passenger cars, commercial vehicles, non-road machinery, and of course, the range of powertrains. And the impact will then be evaluated by, let's say, taking into account representative component trees, the change demand of the specific components. Then we can describe what is the primary manufacturing process behind it, what are the substitution technologies behind that. And this gives you, let's say, also a roadmap towards the future, what is actually coming up. Yeah. And the third point, of course, is then these initial analysis of AFM members, their capabilities, the business potential, the impact on employment, revenue potential, etc. And this can then also be taken to further tailor down the strategies for a specific company. And just to give you one or two examples here, this is what we have also done in the past, that we looked at an European machining manufacturer who is already seeing and has seen this significant sales volume decline in the past. Yeah. The customer produced premium machinery equipment and in the automotive segment, and then the request was to say, okay, what is coming up in the future? Where are attractive market segments? Yeah, is it really the automotive sector? Could it be micromobility? Could it be power tools, cable connectors, aerospace, other segments? Yeah. And then we did this market analysis. We had ideation workshops to really identify the product fit. Does it really fit to the capabilities of the machines, or how do the machines need to be changed to be able to produce these tools? And what is the impact then on the total supply chain behind that? Yeah. Or even another example, which then goes down to these tier X suppliers. We also on a regular basis work with oil and lubricant suppliers on global and local level. And they are also looking into certain segments to see what will change for us if certain, let's say, disruptions come in place. Let it be the transformation of mature to emerging technologies. Let it be the impact of gigacasting on the conventional, let's say, forming technology. So this substitution, and what is then the impact on material, on fluids, etc. This is what we typically do and where we feel comfortable. And with that, I'm already coming to the end, and just let me quickly summarize what we have seen so far. So first point is driven by legislation. The OEMs, especially also European OEMs, have outlined their electrification strategy roadmap. which basically points to we will reach 100% by roughly 80-40, let it be plus minus a few years, but this is what is actually coming up, and which also was explained by Patrick. Yeah. And then we took a brief look at the share increase of the battery electric vehicles and their impact on the powertrain industry, and that this value creation will substantially reduce while the material cost intensity will increase over the next years. And these emerging powertrain technologies are leading to an increase of the value creation in specific manufacturing processes. Yeah? And this is something that needs to be considered for the future revenue streams. And in the end, FEV Consulting Iberia can support AFM and you as local companies to analyze these scenarios and to prepare yourself with a future roadmap towards these changes in the market, in the industry. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to receive your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hagen and Patrick. It was very, very interesting hearing you. So yes, now we open a time to answer the questions that you in the audience may have. So you can share your questions through the button chat or preguntas y respuestas, questions and answers. So please send any question you may have. I want to start with a question about well, the current political discussions. No, do you think that it's possible a shift in the strategy that concern to the electrical vehicles in this scenario? For instance, a trend towards e-fuels regarding electrical vehicles and going through a mix or something like this. What do you think happened here?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Chacho. I think it's a valid one, and it basically reflects the political discussion and the industry discussion we are perceiving all, I guess, today in the media with our colleagues, with our friends. That is the current question. I would argue and answer that question the following way. We do see that there is a reflection process within the political bodies, which is exactly what I said before, that strategic dialogue has been kicked off, and that there will be a review of the target set for CO2 emissions in Europe. This will lead to, let me say, not a turnaround in strategy. That would lead to certain degrees of flexibility to maintain competitiveness for the automotive industry. And we always have to have in mind that the automotive industry has already significantly transformed and prepared with multi-billion investments into the EV technology. I mean, there have been new platforms developed. We have a significant pressure of Chinese competition going into the European market. Maybe not yet visible today, but visible in the next 1-2 years. So that industry footprint has been transformed already, and I think it is very unlikely that there is a mechanism to basically turn back. And you mentioned specifically e-fuels as an alternative, and yes, that is a very, very nice idea, and we support the discussion on e-fuels very much as an alternative to allow for carbon-free mobility. Just there's one issue. The issue is really about the availability of these e-fuels in wider degrees for the automotive mobility sector. I mean, we discuss decarbonization for plenty of industry segments. Please have in mind aerospace industry, have in mind off-road applications, have in mind marine. So there are so many applications where a electrification with batteries is just not useful and not doable from a technology perspective, where we need e-fuel. And that means that the availability of e-fuels would be mostly dedicated to these applications, whilst on the passenger car side, we see a strong ramp up of battery electric solutions. That would be my answer to your question.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. We have another question from Igor. He asks, according to your estimations, by 2040, mature technologies will decrease 80% in Europe. I understand that this means that almost 80% of current output of the automotive industry in Europe must be transformed or will disappear. Is that right?
I think, Hagen, that is on the 80% introduction chart.
Yes. So let me go back to this. So I guess you mean this one. Yeah. Exactly. So with the, let's say, introduction of BEVs, of PHEVs, etc., we already see the new technologies coming up, and they need also other materials. Yeah? And it's all based on the new powertrains, which I have explained. So we talk about electric motors with a lot of copper, aluminum content. We talk about power electronics, yeah? Everything around this, and also battery cells, yeah? A lot of plastics, a lot of aluminum for the housing, etc. And this is already an ongoing change, which we see. I hope that's covered the question so far.
Okay. Okay, another question. I see a clear split between European northern economies and southern economies in the speed of adopting the EV vehicles. How do you see a full EV scenario in countries with more than 60% of car living day and night in the streets? Spain, Portugal, Italy, and part of France.
Very good question. Absolutely valid. It's very difficult to compare, for instance, Norway or northern countries with a super different population density and mobility patterns to, let me say, Central and Southern European countries. Yes, statement confirmed. I fully agree. I do believe that the technology evolvement for EVs will drastically increase still over the next years. We will see vehicles with much larger range capabilities, with much higher capabilities to apply fast charging, even with a wider rollout of bidirectional charging. This would lead to a situation where I think that fear that everyone has, that I need to charge my vehicle on a daily basis, will not be valid anymore. And we have seen models and analysis where you basically need to look into the question how much of the share needs to be charged in parallel to maintain the functioning of these vehicles. And we do see that we will have sufficient infrastructure if the infrastructural build up will happen, and it will take more years, of course. But with the combination of an absolutely increased performance of these vehicles, it is manageable. And there's another point to it. I think we also have to be super aware of the fact that when you look into 2030 or you look into 2035, a sales volume of EVs on the market of, let's say, 80-90% does absolutely not mean that on the streets, on the fleet, you have an 80-90% EV share. You have, of course, a significant number of vehicles on the vehicle park which originate from the 20s, for instance. Hence, it is misleading to translate directly sales volume into, let me say, the real distribution on the vehicle park in different countries. Bottom line, we do see that infrastructural boundaries also in southern and central European countries will pick up, and in combination with the enhanced performance of these vehicles, we do believe that this is the baseline of that scenario. Please remind, we are talking 10, 15 years from now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Patrick. We have more questions. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Thank you for attending. I know this is a difficult question, but you might have some idea on how small machining companies could seize the opportunities you mentioned and how they could minimize the losses that the technological shift is forcing to bring.
Yeah.
Difficult question.
Okay, understood. And it's basically what I tried to explain in one of these case studies, especially if it comes to small machining companies. The easiest way would be to say, we look at the market, we look at the trends, and then we try to look into what is actually coming up now to see some benchmarking vehicles. Yeah? And you don't need to tear them down to really see what is inside, but you could go to a benchmarking specialist to see and make maybe a workshop on site to really look and feel what is it like, what is coming up in the future, and then you could prepare yourself towards, let's say, the new customers and to propose your solutions to that. And I'm Patrick, your opinion on this. I would like to invite you to organize one of these workshops with us. We have teardown centers, just like competitors also have, to be fair on that. And we have these future vehicles who are, let's say, top-notch now in the market from China, from the EU. We can take a look at the powertrain components, e-motors, batteries, everything around that. And many customers already do that to really see what is coming up there. Where do I actually need any kind of assembly operation, gluing operation? Where do I need any kind of additional value add that is maybe missing, or even with the idea I could do something big, different, better, cheaper, whatsoever. Yeah.
If I may add, Jean, just on top of what Hagen said, all right, all correct. A big advantage we have as FEV is also the following. I said at the beginning that FEV Group is one of the largest engineering partners. So what we are doing right now is we are developing right now products which will be on the market in 3, 4, 5 years. That means that our engineering teams have a very, very good understanding of how products will look like even going forward, which requirements are defined, how specifications are defined, and which basically subsystems, components, machine tool requirements will be needed going forward. And that is a knowledge, let me say, an information. We have to treat confidentiality very seriously, but that of course helps us to understand what's coming out in a couple of years, and that helps again you in discussions with us to understand what you need to prepare for. And these are exactly the examples. We have done several projects here, specifically in the Basque region, if I may share that, where we discussed about new product opportunities for these suppliers, having in mind that things will change. And of course, we always adapt these scenarios to the specific boundaries of our clients. Not everyone has a multi-million investment, let me say, opportunity or freedom. There are organizational boundary conditions. There are skills you have in-house or you don't have in-house. So I think we need always to be clear. We need to adapt these projects and these discussions to your specific boundaries. And this is what we're doing in our projects.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The main objective of this seminar was to give a first approach about the situation of the automotive industry and the impact in our sector. And of course, if any one of you from the audience wants to dig deeper, we will give you the contacts from Hagen and Patrick, and you can start a conversation about the impact in your own processes, products, and so on. Okay, we have another question. They ask, which factor you consider more critical for Basque industry future? The evolution to a full EV scenario or the Chinese Asian suppliers' competitiveness?
Oh,
You have to choose between mother and father.
that's a very good one. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind. First statement, I would say that the Chinese, specifically Chinese competition does not put under pressure only the Basque industry, but the European R&D and production landscape. We are involved, and believe me, we are involved in discussions with European OEMs, large OEMs, and the messages are clear. There is a wave of competitive products coming in the next 2 to 3 years, and we will see very high performing products at very low cost, which significantly puts under pressure our European R&D community. So I would say at a very, very first statement, that is a European phenomena for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, if I try to put a specific focus on the Basque region, I do believe that we are very strong in manufacturing technology, that we are very strong in efficiently producing competitive components. Mm-hmm. However, I do believe that the entry of that new market players will also put us in our industry under severe pressure, as European customers, your customers today, will face significant issues in terms of product positioning, consequently in terms of supply chain, with a lot of pressure on cost what concerns products out of the Basque industry. Then, do we see opportunities from that shift? Obviously we do. This is a moment of, how can I say, reinventing ourselves. We are smart, we have a strong industrial footprint, we have smart people. So I'm super confident that we as an industry community are capable to drive this shift, to change and to adapt to new boundaries. So a clear message is we are positive, we are competitive, but we need to change. We need to adapt drastically to play a role in that future European landscape.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we will try to do it with our best.
When I say we are part of it. We are part
I know. Okay, so this was the last question. Thank you very much, Hagen and Patrick. It was very, very interesting and inspiring hearing you today. So also thank you to the people that listen to this seminar. We will share the presentation and the contact from Hagen and Patrick. And I hope to see all of you in the next webinar. Thank you very much. We also have here an encuesta that I ask you to fill, or the people from the audience, and that will be all. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
Agur.
Hola a todos. Para estar al día e informados de todos los contenidos y webinars de AFM en YouTube, suscribíos y dale a la campanita.
Elegí el sector del mecanizado porque es algo que me viene un poco de familia. Mi abuelo en su momento también fue calderero, así que sí, conocía el sector de antes. Y es algo que la verdad siempre me ha gustado hacer. El trabajo práctico, la faena manual, ¿no? Lo que es un tema de faenas manuales, siempre me ha gustado mucho.
Bai, bidaiatzea tokatu zait, Europan zehar, egon naiz toki ezberdinetan eta baita estatu batuetan ere bai, eta iruditzen zait oso sektore innovadore eta interesgarria, ze gaur egun mundua dagoen kompetitibidadearekin innovatzen ez baldin badezu ez dago aukerarik aurrera jarraitzen.
Es un sector que ofrece mucha proyección a futuro, ya que pues, te obliga a mirar el diseño desde muchas perspectivas diferentes, no solo desde la perspectiva del diseñador, porque pues luego hay que montar lo que diseñas y a mí pues me gusta mucho el hecho de que tú diseñes algo y tus ideas se plasmen luego en el taller y verlas cómo se convierten en realidad, y pues la verdad que eso yo creo que te da una perspectiva muy amplia y te da pues, mucha proyección de futuro.
Sí que toca viajar bastante, sobre todo dependiendo de los proyectos en los que estés involucrado y si estás haciendo una tesis. Y sobre las reuniones de proyectos normalmente suelen ser más a nivel de gestión, dependiendo del consorcio pues suelen ser o nacionales o internacionales, pero en general sí que suele tocar viajar.
Es fundamental el querer aprender, el querer formarse, el querer siempre ir un paso más de este trabajo, sobre todo, que hay que estar muy informado, hay que cada día formarse más y tener mucha actitud para poder estar a la altura del puesto.
Sektore honek nire etorkizuneako oinarri oso sendoak ematen eta diseinatzaile bezala asko hainez ikasten eta nire etorkizunen ere diseinatzaile bezala lan eta gustoko zaiten sektore honetan edo beste baten. Nire perfileko pertsona batei esango nion karreran zehar gauza industrialak eta gustoko izan baldin zaizkio, dudarik gabe sektore hau gustoko zaiola eta ikasteko gogokin etortzeko eta pozik egongo dela.
Creo que hasta ahora ha sido un sector bastante clásico, pero ahora está dando a grandes pasos muchos cambios y la innovación y tanto la inclusión femenina se puede ver cada día más en los talleres y en este tipo de sector. En este sector soy feliz porque creo que estoy creciendo tanto personalmente como profesionalmente y puedo emplear todos los conocimientos que he recibido hasta ahora en la universidad.